Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we completed the investigation part of the Memoirs Cloud of Kokoro. Today's episode right now, we're going to go into the trial, which I did not expect we go right away. I thought we got more investigation to do, but here we are again, ladies and gentlemen. We'll figure out as to why, how this is connected to the future, present, time, whatever. If you had today's episode, make sure to like button, support it is greatly appreciated to the channel. The Old Bailey. The place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in nervous sweat all the time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this? Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole? Twice, back-to-back episode, which is crazy. Can't keep it coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. We're facing the vampire? Oh. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Awkward. Judicial Assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquest. What's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't hearing what you say. Oh, I'm so sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mrs. Sato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Barak von Zykes. The vampire! Von Zykes? Oh no. No. The vampire of the court. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey. The most legendary prosecutor in the land. We still have yet to know why about his 5-year disappearance. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Saseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zykes is the prosecutor. Oh no! That even if the person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end, one way or another. And we experienced it firsthand. We're going back to that one again? Oh man. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal. Right here in the Old Bailey. Do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits, and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrifying perils, potentially. Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume? Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I'm innocent. You have to believe me. You, more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. We could have just transitioned to that right away. Oh yes, forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh, if he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness if Lord Von Zykes were to notice. He'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I swear on this sword on my side and the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free with honor. Oh, yes. Now that you mentioned the guy that we met outside of the residence that's peeping on that, I think I remember who he was now. He was having an argument with William Shakespeare in the previous game. In the name of Her Majesty, the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The vampire! The prosecution is ready. Defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my lord Nipponese friend, is not what defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just my imagination. It's really there. Lord von Sykes has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that the first became known as the Reaper of the Belly, I believe. The past few years he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom. But for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curiosity, disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery? Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Saseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before. Oh, here you are again. Is it the same guys? Oh my god. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on the days when hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. Okay, we got a new one. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. It's the same people, except the exception of juror number 4. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here, and lead his flock to the righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public. The judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the offense's guilt. And it's the same people! 6 citizens of London chosen at random. Or at least, that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was in trial here but 2 days ago, with the same jury except juror number 4. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord von Sykes, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime, namely that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. It's like the LC. To explain the circumstance of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witness to the stand. Old man? He's serious! The cape's off! The detective responsible for investigating the scene and accused himself. Gregsy! Witnesses, your names and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Soseki Natsume, from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student, study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume. Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear you first. Explain the case for the court. Right, you are, sir. Yo! The incident occurred at the Garrideb household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shakespeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine? I don't know. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to an exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shakespeare, lives to tell the tale, he very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord, and I have photograph proof here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very diseased. That's right. Everyone present believed that exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes. As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what haunted? My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstance. A woman was stabbed by no one in the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. Me. What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened. When I returned from Shakespeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me. You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold, my runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shakespeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in the cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief. Order! Yes, that's the cruise of the whole case. Crux, maybe? If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why was the victim accused? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you stated the accusation? That evening, yes. I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shakespeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought a bottle of water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again, never. The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witness at least once. Therefore, I call upon the witnesses for formal testimony. I presume the prosecutor has no objections. None whatsoever, my lord. Very well then, good. Then you will give your account on the events of the night in question to the court now. Yes! Yes, my lord. Alrighty then. The catastrophic night. It was around 9 o'clock. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor. And I took some tea with me as gifts. We had a heated literacy debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm just gonna say that poison. That poison takes some time to have effect on the body. The victim could have been perfectly able to lock the doors after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance? How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should do? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. That the inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstance. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist. Funnily though. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see, thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I could feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. The Catastrophic Night. Okay, what do we have for the court record, please? Thank you. I want to check something. We have this second-hand receipt of the same thing! Why do we have that back again? Once again. Why do we have that again? Once again. It's only been 2 days. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a drink. I always gulp it down too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you the proper way to take tea. What was the point of that? Nothing suspicious on the bottom. Nothing on the cracks. Alright. Ripped piece of envelope. I have no idea what this is. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Susato. I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Homeland Soames. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never. I see no significance in this one, but we'll find out later on today, or later on in the future. Yo! Oh? What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This is the bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in the depression, just here, a reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember too. And now the depression is completely empty. Where could the disc have gone? Alrighty then. Alrighty then, the crime scene of the photograph shows. Yo, what's this? Is that... Why is this all the way out there? From that? It was around 9 o'clock in the evening when I visited my neighbor and I took some tea with it as a gift. We had a heated literacy debate over a nice hot drink, and after which I went back to my room around 11. A literacy debate about Shakespeare works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Ah, very worthy topic conversation, I must say. Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. Hey, what now? Mr. Shakespeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for such contests. So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He's as Romeo and as Juliet, and after a vigorous wild tussle, I, as Juliet, came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever. I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the one in my room and made a pot to take with me. I heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you know. It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why does everyone look at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless. Of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? So I'm assuming that we press on and then we had to get to the jury examination again. The tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me, otherwise could he? Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is pity because one drop is all we needed to analyze the poison. And you say that you return home to your room at 11 o'clock. Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. The landlord was able to verify that as it happened. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how is the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants returned to their rooms and started using gas, the lamps in the other parts of the house flickered. Yes, Mr. Garrett did say seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one way to key to Mr. Shakespeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be that case, yes. So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean?
Hold it!
How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. You can't deny that, and it's further degrades Soseki's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells out really, the accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great! William Shakespeare. Cause of coma. Ingestion of small quantity of whatever that is. Toxic effect present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likely of the substance having been mixed with tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. The poisoning incident occurred at 1:30 a.m. on 21st. 1:30 a.m. on 21st. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed. After the late onset of symptoms, no container of the poison was found at the scene. Didn't he left about the thing? The argument's consistent. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the doors after his guest left. My key was harmless. How could he? Well, where did he get the tea? I have a guess. I think I have an idea. It's just a time frame. After which I went back to around 11, and he said it was a 30-minute interval, right? So, the poisoning incident occurred at 1:30 a.m., on which, says from the victim's pocket watch, it appears to have broken when the man collapsed after delay onset of symptoms.
Objection!
There you go, as I thought. Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct? Yes. And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine. Actually, I think there's a very big problem, because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defense testimony. What? What are you about? According to the report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning, and yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought into the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Why did they go in sync? The defense argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Von Zykes? Oh, here we go again. Pray forgive to the discourtesy if my mind was wandered. I was considering what cuisine would be best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate the shadow illusions, but my nimble knees Fred appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? It is so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left. For example, at the time stated in the medical report, yes, at around 1:30. Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying, drink the tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying, there is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend. From someone who has nothing to do substantiated. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. You suggest this may be a suicide, counsel? I have no idea what I'm just saying. Mr. Shakespeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted. But he could be lying. Get to the point, Chief. Is something wrong, Lord Von Zykes? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Hold it! Shakespeare? Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and that is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shakespeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I. Undone by these bitter events, I am the victim. What? What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with the interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shakespeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. Now will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. And with that, we'll end the episode right here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe. You! Chronicles XTB, and I'm signing out.